Bienvenidos. Welcome to A1 Prep AP Spanish course. My name is Javier and I will be helping you so you can study well and ace the AP Spanish exam. Before I start, I want to go ahead and congratulate you on 3 things. The first thing is for selecting A1 Prep as your study guide. Second, I want to congratulate you for picking a college level course as a high school student. And third, I want to congratulate you for speaking AP Spanish, because Spanish is a very widely spoken language these days, and if you know, from Mexico all the way to Chile, over 20 countries speak Spanish. So it's a very good selection. And also I want to go ahead and advise you to take the SAT 2 Spanish as well, because as you know, a lot of Ivy League colleges, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, are requiring students to take 2 to 3 SAT courses. So by studying for the AP Spanish, you will be studying for the SAT 2 Spanish as well. It's a bit different, but they're very similar. And I want to go ahead and tell you that by taking an AP class, you'll be able to save time in college by receiving a lot of credits, as I did. And also, you'll be saving a lot of money because college tuition is a big issue these days. And lastly, I want you to remember that this is a sample video, so it's 15 minutes. So you have to understand that I will be speaking in a faster pace, and the video will be cut shortly. Okay, so let's go with example number 1. This is a listening exercise, so you will be listening in the exam, but I presented it as a text, so you can be reading the text as well and listening as I'm speaking, so you can do both things at once. So here's the narrator. He speaks. Un cliente llega a una tienda de ropa de hombre. So, as you know, un cliente is very similar to English, client. So you know, a client, llega, which is the word for comes, the verb comes. A una tienda, tienda would be store, de ropa de hombre. So you know that hombre is man and ropa is clothes. So basically a client is coming to a man's clothes store. And we know that llega does not have an R. The reason why llega does not have an R is because the verb llegar is in third person. And in third person would refer to him or él in Spanish. And in this case, it would be the client. So the client speaks, Hola, buenos días. Por favor, ¿podría usted atenderme? What the client is doing is greeting. We all know that hola is hello. Then he says, good morning, buenos días. Please, could you help me? Could you assist me? Could you attend me? Now, the verb atender is the root word of this verb. Now, why is there a me after R? Because the client is referring to himself. He's asking the agent or the seller to assist him, to attend him. So when he speaks to himself, he's referring with me at the end of a verb. Normally, all verbs that end with me is referring to oneself. Now, the vendedora, which would be the seller, in this case a female, but since I can't express a female voice, I will go ahead and read it with my normal voice. She would say, Sí, señor, ¿en qué puedo servirle? Now here, she's saying, yes, sir. In what can I help you with? What can I serve you with? Now, the verb servirle is also the root word of servir. Now, you're asking yourself, why is there a le here when there's a me here? The reason why is because she is referring to the client. In this case, the client is referring to the seller to attend him. He's referring to himself. Whereas the seller is referring to the client. So it would end with a le. There's a quick rule you have to know because a lot of verbs usually end with le, lo, or la. When it's le, it's usually referring to a person or a human. If it's lo, it's referring to an object or a noun, but in its masculine form. And if it ends with la, then it would be referring to an object or a noun in female form. Now the client is saying, un amigo mío me ha regalado esta corbata para mi cumpleaños. What the client is saying is, a friend of mine, mío, coming from the word me ha regalado, has given me esta corbata para mi cumpleaños. These words that I've changed the color in yellow, that are underneath, that are translated with a definition in English, are terms that you should know for the exam because they do appear and are commonly used in the Spanish language. So corbata would be necktie. Para mi cumpleaños, for my birthday. Cumpleaños is birthday. If you don't know what cumpleaños is, because it's a very long word, if you know that there's two words composed, it's like a compound word. Cumple would mean to complete or to fulfill. And años is years. So fulfill or to complete years. That's where the word birthday comes from in Spanish, cumpleaños. Next sentence would be, como usted verá, es una corbata de colores muy llamativos con un dibujo muy extravagante. So what the client is saying is that, as you can see, usted is also abbreviated like that in Spanish. And usually you would say usted to a person that's older or someone you don't know, or if you want to show respect. Because you could also say tú, but normally to show respect you would use the word usted. Verá, es una corbata de colores. It's a necktie of colores, colors. Muy llamativo. Llamativo would sort of, you would define llamativo as very showy. Something that caused a lot of attention. And as you know, this word comes also from the word llamar, the verb llamar, which is to call. And it says, con un dibujo muy extravagante. So with an image or a picture that's very extravagant, very strange. The next sentence. Yo soy una persona seria. I am a very serious person. Seria meaning serious. Trabajo en una empresa de contabilidad. Empresa is a vocab you should know. Very important, refers to company. And de contabilidad is also a very long word. This means accounting. If you don't know what this word means because it's too long, just check the root word, conta, which comes from the verb contar, which is to count. So you probably say, okay, it's a company that counts. So you would assume that it is probably a company that runs business or accounting in this case. Y esta corbata no me va. So he's saying that this necktie does not fit me, does not go with me. No me va. And then he says, por favor, ¿podría cambiarla por otra menos llamativa? So he's asking, please, could you change this for another, por otra, for other that's less showy or less, that causes less attention. And he says, o, si eso no es posible, podría cambiarla por otra cosa. So he's saying, and if that's not possible, then could you change this, cambiarla, for another thing? Now, as I mentioned before, when there's a verb and the end of the verb it ends with le, lo, or la, I mentioned this before. In this verb, cambiar, which is to change, right here, which is to change, as you can see, is referring to another object, to the necktie. And necktie is corbata. Corbata ends with an A, so it's feminine. So since it's a feminine object, it's a feminine noun, at the end of the verb, cambiar, you would add la and not lo or le, because lo would be masculine. Le would be referring to a person, and necktie is not a person. So he's asking if you can change this for another thing, another object. Then the seller, which would be the vendedora, would say, lo siento, señor. Obviously, you should know this by now. It means I'm sorry, sir. Pero esta corbata fue parte de nuestras ofertas de liquidación. Okay, that was a long sentence, but just take it slowly. She's saying, but this necktie was parte de nuestra, another word you should know, of our ofertas, offer, of, de, liquidación, of clearance. Y se anunció claramente que no se permitirán ni cambios ni devoluciones. So she's saying, and it has been announced, anunció claramente, clearly, que no se permitirán, that it's not permitted any changes. We learned at the slide before, cambiar, which is to change. Cambios would be changes. Ni devoluciones, nor returns. Devoluciones also comes from the word devolver, which is to return. Okay? And this long word, desgraciadamente, I did not bold it, I did not put bold or change the color, but I want you to write this down because desgraciadamente is one of the most frequently used words to start a sentence on the writing section. It means the word unfortunately. You will be using it a lot on your writing section. So go ahead and write it down. Unfortunately, desgraciadamente, es algo que no se puede rectificar. Rectificar in English would be rectify. That's a hard word. What it means is you can't correct it or bring it back. So what she's saying is, unfortunately, it's something you can't bring back or have returned. Okay? And then she says, usted tendrá que quedarse con el regalo. You would have to stay or keep the gift or stay with the gift. Okay? And the client is speaking in a very insistent attitude, insistente. So he would be like, usted no me comprende. Estoy seguro que mi amigo me ha dado este regalo para hacerme una broma. So what he's saying is, usted no me comprende. You do not comprehend me. Estoy seguro, I'm sure, que mi amigo, my friend, me ha dado este regalo para hacerme una broma. So he has given me this gift to make me, right? He's referring to himself, a joke, una broma. Es que a él le encanta hacer bromas, pero a mí esta no me hace ninguna gracia. Okay? He's saying it's because he enjoys or loves to make jokes. But to me, a mí, esta no me hace ninguna gracia. This is no fun. This is not humorous to me. Now, the reason why I underlined el is because el has a tilde on top of e. That's a very strange thing because normally el does not have a tilde. You have to know the difference between the two L. There's only two L in Spanish. There's an L without the tilde and L with tilde. The L with tilde is a pronoun, is referring to his friend. So it would have a tilde. If it doesn't have a tilde, it's an artículo or an article that you add before describing an object. If it's masculine, it would be el. If it's feminine, it would be la. Now, the seller would say, bueno, creo que puedo ofrecerle una solución a este problema. Bueno would be well. Creo que puedo ofrecerle, I think I can, offer you, le, at the end of the verb, because it's referring to a person, una solución, a solution to this problem, a este problema. Okay, and the client says, okay, and, y, ¿cuál es su sugerencia? What is your suggestion? The seller would say, espere usted hasta el próximo cumpleaños de su amigo y regálele esta misma corbata. So she's saying, why don't you wait until the next próximo birthday of your friend, de su amigo, and give this same necktie to him. Regale esta misma corbata. So the client says, aha, which is an expression like wow or oh, right, in English. Es una excelente idea. It's an excellent idea. Muchas gracias por esta solución tan ingeniosa. So thank you very much for this solution that is so ingenious or so clever, so smart. De esta manera, sí podré disfrutar del regalo que me ha hecho mi amigo. So he's saying, in this form or this matter, I'll be able to enjoy this gift that my friend has given me. If you see underneath these vocabularies that I have added on the bottom, are very important vocabulary. So as you're seeing this video, write them down and please do study them because you can pause the video. And okay, here's the question number 1. ¿Por qué va el hombre a la tienda? So why, por qué va el hombre a la tienda? Why does he go to the store? Why does the man go to the store? Option A, para devolver algo que no le gusta. Devolver, return, as I mentioned before, devoluciones was about the clearance object that was not able to be returned. Comes from the word devolver. Algo que no le gusta. B, para comprarse una prenda de vestir, to buy clothes, prenda de vestir. C would be para buscar un regalo para un amigo, to search or to look for a gift for his friend. And lastly, D, para hacerle una broma a un amigo, to make a joke to his friend. Now, what would the answer be to the question, why did the man or the customer go to the store? It would obviously be A, devolver, because the purpose why he went back was to return his gift that he received from his friend. It wasn't to buy clothes, it wasn't to find a gift for his friend, and it wasn't to make a joke to his friend. The key principles of language-based tests is that you know the vocabularies. If you don't know the words in between, it's fine. But if you basically know the rundown, you know these vocabularies, and you know what amigo is, and you know what prenda vestir and no le gusta is, you basically understand what the answer would be instead of having to understand the whole sentence fully. So your answer would be A, para devolver algo que no le gusta, which would be A. Okay, now the next question. ¿Cómo, which is how, es la actitud del cliente? How is the attitude of the client? A, insistente, which is insistent. B, juguetona. Juguetona comes from the word juguete, juego, or jugar. Juguete is toy, juego is games, and jugar is to play. So you obviously know, if you know one of these three words, you probably know that juguetona is not the attitude the client had. He wasn't playful or joyful. C, indiferente, was he strange or indifferent? Did he have a strange attitude? No. And D, burlona. Burlona comes from the verb burlar, which is to circumvent or to taunt or to joke or to be silly. So the attitude of the client was basically A, insistente, because he was suffocated about having a very colorful a necktie that caused too much attention. Not because he did not have an attitude of being playful or strange, or burlona, which would be silly or tauntful. So it would be A again. Okay. Now, here's the next question. ¿Por qué no puede la dependienta satisfacer al cliente? And then the answers have por qué, por qué, por qué. What I want to focus here in this question is not the question itself, but if you notice, this is por qué, and this is por qué, but this one has a space, this one doesn't, this has a tilde on the E, and this doesn't. So you're probably wondering, why is it the same word, but with a space and a tilde, and they both have the same spelling, but they're different? So we're going to go ahead and review the rules of the four porqués that are in Spanish. I divided it into two sections, the porqué with no space and the porqués with space. So there's 2 and 2 on each group. The first porqué we're going to see has a tilde on the top of E with no space. It's a sustantivo. By now you should know that sustantivo is a noun. So what would porqué mean in English? The definition of porqué in English would be the reason or the cause or the motive. So for example, if you ask, what is the reason that you're studying for the exam? Then it would be porqué with a tilde and no space. For example, in the sentence, dime el porqué de su respuesta. There had to be a tilde here, sorry. So he's asking, tell me the reason, el porqué de su respuesta, the reason or the cause of your answer. That would be the first porqué in sustantivo or noun. The second porqué is a conjunction. You can refer it to in English as because. So it would be no tengo hambre porque ya almorcé. So he's saying I'm not hungry because I already had lunch. As you can see, there is no space and no tilde. Now, the group with space is por space que with a tilde. It's used to form a question. There's no other reason to use por qué with tilde and with space in other sentences. It would basically refer to why. So you can say, ¿por qué lloras? Why do you cry? Or ¿por qué comes? Why do you eat? Or ¿por qué no estudias? Why don't you study? So it would always be why if there's a space and a tilde in por qué. The last por qué is hardly used. It's normally substituted with el cual, la cual, los cuales, o las cuales, because it's a preposition. Por is a preposition and que is a pronoun, and it is a relative pronoun, so it has to have an article that refers to the noun that it's referring to. So for example, por plus que in English would substitute with which. So if you say el puente por el cual pasamos es hermoso, it would be referring to the bridge that we just passed by or which we passed by is beautiful. So that would be the reason why por and que without tilde and with space would be used for. It's, again, I repeat, it's barely used. it's normally substituted with el cual. So instead of saying por el que pasamos, it would say por el cual pasamos. Es hermoso. And in this case, there are 4 things that it can substitute, but it can't be los or las, because it's plural, and bridge, puente, is singular. And as you know, puente is masculine. The article in front of puente is referring that puente is masculine. So instead of saying la cual, you would say el cual. So you'd say el cual, el puente por el cual pasamos es hermoso, instead of la, or the plural form, los and las. Okay, here's a simple chart that you can study that can help you, because it is a bit confusing. Basically, tilde, no space, reason, the reason. No tilde, no space, because. Tilde space, why. And no tilde space, which. So if you can study this in another method, that you have another chart that you can form, that would be an excellent idea. If not, you can study with this chart. And back to the question. ¿Por qué no puede la dependienta satisfacer al cliente? So why wasn't, here again, space, tilde, it means why. No puede la dependienta satisfacer al cliente. So why wasn't the dependent of the store, which would be the seller, unable to satisfy the customer? A, because, no space, no tilde. As I mentioned before, no space, no tilde. Because. So, because se trata de una broma, because it was part of a joke. B, because the necktie, corbata, was a gift, es un regalo. Porque el amigo tiene que ir en persona, because the friend has to go in person. And lastly, D, porque se trata de una liquidación, because it was part of a clearance. So why wasn't the dependienta of the store able to satisfy the customer? It's obviously D, porque se trata de una liquidación, because it was part of a clearance. It was part of an offer of a clearance, so it wasn't able to accept any devoluciones, which would be returns. So it would obviously be D. And again, this is a listening exercise, so while you're listening this on the day of the exam, focus on the hard words, because they will appear on the question. Okay, and this would be the last question. ¿Qué sugiere la dependienta que haga el cliente? So what does the dependent suggest the customer to do? A, que espere hasta la próxima oferta, to wait for the next offer. It's a term here, próxima, very important term. Please do study this and have it memorized. B, que pida que le devuelvan el dinero, to ask that they devuelvan el dinero. Again, this word devuelvan comes from the word devolver, which is to return, or devoluciones, which is also returns. Devuelvan el dinero. And C, que hable con su amigo, go talk with his friend, which could be the answer, because the dependent suggested something similar. And lastly, D, que le dé el mismo regalo a su amigo, that he give the same gift to his friend. Now, the reason why I underline de with a tilde on top is because in Spanish, there's 2 de. There's the de without the tilde, which is a preposition, which would be of in English. So, Corea del Sur, or amigo de Javier, it would be a friend of Jen, or Jen's friend in English. But if there's a tilde on top, it's a verb. It's the third form of verb, imperative form of the verb. In Spanish would be imperativo, which comes from the verb dar, which is to give. So what he's saying is to give the same gift to his friend, third person to his friend. So the answer would be D, because that's what the seller or the dependiente suggested the man to do to his friend, to give back the gift on his birthday. Okay, well, that was a sample video of AP Spanish course. I hope to see you on the next videos, and please do understand that my pace has been a bit faster, a bit quicker, and muchas gracias y hasta pronto.